Sleep isn't a single block of non-existence, but a precise montage of repeating cycles where the brain alternately switches on different modes. During a typical night, an adult goes through approximately 4 to 6 cycles, each lasting 90 to 110 minutes. It begins with light drowsiness, stage N1, alpha waves on the EEG thin out, theta waves appear, muscles relax, but the person still reacts to their name. Next is stage N2, the real sleep. Sleep spindles, short bursts of 11 to 16 Hz activity, and K-complexes emerge, single high-amplitude waves that help filter out external noise and stabilize sleep. The deepest is N3, slow-wave sleep dominated by delta rhythm. This is when it's hardest to wake up. Body temperature and breathing rate decrease, and the body actively restores tissues and immune parameters. After this, abruptly and strangely, the REM, rapid eye movement sleep phase kicks in. Eyeballs dart under the eyelids, the cortex functions almost like during the day, but the brainstem switches off the muscles. Generalized atonia occurs, so you don't physically act out your dreams. Dream recall is most vivid here. In adults, REM occupies about a quarter of the night, while in infants it's more. These phases alternate, but their proportions and depth change towards morning. Slow waves become less frequent, and REM periods get longer, meaning the most cinematic dreams happen closer to waking. And yes, sleep really does break into pieces. If you wake up during REM, you experience a vivid storyline. If from N3, you feel grogginess and disorientation, with the sleep inertia fog effect lasting another 20–30 minutes. Second fact: while you sleep, a subtle yet vital sanitation operation unfolds in your brain, glymphatic cleansing. Its engine is astrocytes, helper cells for neurons, whose membranes are permeated by aquaporin 4 channels. Through perivascular corridors, cerebrospinal fluid enters brain tissues, mixes with extracellular fluid, and washes away metabolic waste products, from excess ions to proteins like beta-amyloid. Animal experiments show that during slow-wave sleep, intercellular spaces expand by tens of percent and flow intensifies. Rhythmic pulsation of blood vessels and slow oscillations of neural activity act as a pump. During the day, when neurons are busy processing signals, this flushing is less effective, leading to an accumulation of waste products. This is why chronic sleep deprivation is associated with cognitive fuzziness and increased risks of neurodegeneration, according to observational data, although direct causality is not fully proven. Effectiveness is also influenced by subtle factors: vascular tone, sleep architecture, and even the orientation of aquaporin 4 on astrocyte processes, which can degrade with age. Data from rodents suggest that sleeping on your side facilitates drainage compared to sleeping on your back, but for humans, this remains a cautious hypothesis. Crucially, the depth and continuity of slow sleep are key. They provide the system with the time and impetus to clear out daytime debris via venous pathways to lymphatic collectors and then into the body's overall metabolic conveyor. Third fact: while the body is still, your day's experience is being sorted. The brain finalizes memory. This isn't an image, but an electrical protocol with precise timing. In deep N3 sleep, the cortical network generates slow oscillations, a rare beacon of about 0.5 to 1 Hz setting the tempo. On their rise, sleep spindles, typically 12 to 15 Hz, flash, short lines of code that help strengthen connections between cortical areas. Within these same windows, fast ripples arrive from the hippocampus, bursts of impulses in which, according to rodent experiments and human observations, fragments of recent experiences are replayed like an accelerated rewind of a route taken. The slow-wave spindle ripple linkage is phase-locked and essentially transfers memory from the hippocampus's buffer to the cortex's long-term storage. Hence, a practical takeaway: after learning, NREM sleep, especially with a good amount of N3, boosts accuracy in recalling facts and associations. Motor skills have their own emphasis. N2, where spindles are denser, notably contributes to their refinement. After sleep, movements that night become smoother and more stable. REM sleep adds another layer, processing emotional colors. In REM, visual areas and the amygdala are active, but noradrenaline levels are low. Thus, the heat of emotions dissipates, while the memory's narrative remains. This explains why morning-after experiences feel calmer. Labs have also shown fine-tuning. If a scent or sound linked to learned material is subtly presented during sleep, the probability of correctly tagging that trace increases. It's not magic, but a contextual hint for the indexing system. The key condition is continuity. Fragmented sleep breaks this delicate synchronization, leading to the "I think I learned it, but my head is noisy" effect. Fourth fact: sleep is not a pause, but a hormonal and metabolic change of scenery that affects appetite, recovery, and feelings of alertness. As darkness falls, melatonin increases. It doesn't induce sleep by itself, but shifts the body into night mode. Core temperature drops, peripheral vasodilation intensifies, and the brain finds it easier to enter NREM sleep. During the first third of the night, when slow-wave sleep predominates, the pituitary gland releases large pulses of somatotropin, growth hormone. It is during these windows that protein synthesis, tissue repair, and support for the musculoskeletal system occur more actively. Towards morning, cortisol begins to rise. Its smooth pre-dawn increase is a built-in alarm clock that helps mobilize glucose and prepares the cardiovascular system for getting up. In parallel, hunger regulation changes. With adequate sleep, leptin, the satiety signal, remains higher and ghrelin, the hunger signal, lower. Chronic sleep deprivation shifts this balance the other way, leading to cravings for high-calorie and sweet foods. Insulin sensitivity also decreases, making late-night snacks more likely to be stored as fat. In men, testosterone levels significantly depend on the total duration and continuity of sleep. In women, sleep affects prolactin secretion and the fine-tuning of the hypothalamus-pituitary-ovarian axis. These shifts explain why weeks with a disrupted routine feel not only like fatigue, but also like a disheveled appetite, energy spikes, and skin that heals micro-injuries less effectively. When you sleep is also important. When the schedule shifts, e.g. shift work, hormonal peaks diverge from circadian windows, and recovery becomes more difficult, even if the total hours are the same. Sleep is the chronometer of your metabolism, and the precision of its timing is directly felt in the morning. Fifth fact: at night, the immune system changes tactics and enters a repair shop. Sleep reorganizes cell traffic and signal chemistry, which affects vaccine response and recovery speed. During slow-wave sleep, the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis factor increases. These paradoxically deepen sleep and help immune cells encounter antigens. Lymphocytes migrate more actively to lymph nodes, where learning occurs, the presentation of pathogen fragments by dendritic cells, and the formation of long-term memory. Cortisol and melatonin shifts set the nocturnal schedule. Cortisol prompts mobilization by morning, while melatonin in darkness facilitates anti-inflammatory balance. Hence the observed effects. After nights with full NREM sleep, antibody response to vaccines is higher than with chronic sleep deprivation. Conversely, sleep deficiency in the days around vaccination yields lower titers. Even 1 or 2 days with sleep reduced to a minimum lowers the functionality of natural killer cells, rapid response cells to viruses and tumor targets, and increases systemic inflammation markers. Sleepiness during a cold is not a body's whim, but a built-in strategy. More deep sleep means more chances to speed up antigen presentation and shift protein synthesis to antibodies. There's also a practical side. Shift work and long-haul flights disrupt the circadian windows of immune encounter, causing the same duration of night to yield different immune results. Therefore, that "sleep it off and feel better" has a physiological basis. Night sleep literally meets infection in a meeting and issues the order for long-term protection. The sixth fact is that some of the strangest sleep phenomena are not mysticism, but a synchronization failure between the picture, emotions, and motor systems. Sleep paralysis is a classic example. The REM phase already shuts down muscles with general atonia, so you don't act out the dream's plot with your body. But the cortex wakes up. The person feels clear consciousness, inability to move, and often vivid hypnagogic imagery or a presence. This is brief and passes on its own, though subjectively frightening. The opposite is REM sleep behavior disorder, where atonia isn't switched on. The sleeper actually acts out their dream, talking, waving arms, sometimes bumping into furniture. In the elderly, this condition often turns out to be an early marker for future synucleinopathies, e.g. Parkinson's disease. So, a sudden coming alive during sleep is a reason for medical evaluation and basic bedroom safety. Sleepwalking, on the other hand, lives in another camp. These are episodes of awakening from deep N3 sleep where motor programs are launched without full consciousness activation. The person walks, performs simple actions, but doesn't remember it in the morning. More common in children who grow out of this as the proportion of slow-wave sleep decreases. Short twitches when falling asleep, hypnic jerks, are just a false alarm from the motor system during the resetting of rhythms. There are also rare effects like exploding head syndrome, where a loud bang is heard upon falling asleep. This is also harmless. The common denominator is triggers. Sleep deprivation, stress, alcohol, irregular schedules increase the likelihood of such episodes. Sleep is a fragile coordination of many breaks and starts, and when one block enters the rhythm a second too early or too late, the night's mystical plots arise. Seventh fact: the heart and blood vessels switch to a different mode at night, quieter, deeper, and more economical. During non-REM sleep, the parasympathetic influence of the vagus nerve intensifies. The pulse slows down, blood vessels get a respite, and the blood pressure of most people drops significantly compared to daytime. This is called nocturnal dipping. Such a drop is a good sign. Baroreflexes calibrate. The endothelium restores sensitivity to blood flow shifts, and heart rate variability becomes more lively. The brain and heart better adjust to each other. However, the picture is not constant. In REM sleep, sympathetic surges return. Heart rhythm becomes ragged, and pressure surges in waves, as if you are running, even though the body is immobilized. If nights are filled with micro-awakenings due to noise, pain, or breathing pauses from apnea, the heart receives dozens of short whip cracks. Each jerk is a release of catecholamines, a pressure spike, then silence again. Some people's blood pressure barely drops at night. They are non-dippers. Observations suggest this is more common with metabolic disorders and apnea syndrome, and this profile is linked to greater long-term risks for blood vessels. Breathing in NREM is more regular and slightly lazier. The brain allows more carbon dioxide for stability. In REM, it becomes variable, just like heart rhythm. At the transition from night to morning, the body accelerates. Cortisol gradually rises. Blood vessels receive the command to prepare for verticality, and it is precisely the shift from horizontal rest to activity when vulnerable systems sometimes fail. Thus, the night appears from the inside as a training of soft flexibility. In depth, it's about saving and repair. In narrative phases, it's about controlled storms so that the engine is ready to go in the morning. Fact number 8. At night, the body readjusts heat and water, a hidden engineering of comfort. At the start of sleep, the brain opens the radiators at the periphery. The vessels of the hands and feet widen, giving off heat, and the body's core temperature gradually decreases. This makes it easier to enter deep NREM sleep. Therefore, cold feet hinder falling asleep, while a warm shower an hour and a half to 2 hours before bed paradoxically cools the core and speeds up falling asleep. Skin warming triggers heat release outward. Simultaneously, the night secretion of vasopressin, the antidiuretic hormone, increases. The kidneys concentrate urine and you wake up less often to go to the toilet. Fluid is retained in the bloodstream and tissues. The lying position alters gravity. Fluid more easily leaves the feet and, in the morning, can rise to the face and upper respiratory tract. Hence the usual slight morning puffiness and stuffiness. The intervertebral discs, which bore the axial load all day, absorb water like sponges during rest hours, slightly increasing spinal height. In tall people, the height difference between evening and morning can be about 1 to 2 centimeters. There's also an outflow. During the night, hundreds of milliliters of water evaporate through breathing and skin, and the morning scale often shows less. It's not a fat-burning miracle, but evaporation and exhaled carbon dioxide. In REM sleep, thermoregulation works differently. The brain is busy with dream plots, and the thermostat operates lazily. This is why dreams in hot or cold weather seem particularly restless. Small everyday details fit this physiology. Thick socks warm the feet and help the body release heat. A too-warm bedroom keeps the core hot and disrupts slow waves. Late alcohol dilates skin vessels, giving an illusion of warmth, but disrupts nocturnal hydraulics and causes awakenings. The night exchange of heat and water is an invisible spectacle that determines morning clarity of mind, dry eyes, spinal flexibility, and lightness of step. Ninth fact: even when you are off, the brain doesn't abandon its watch. Sensory systems don't sleep equally, but filter the world, leaving slivers for what's important. Hearing is the main night guard. In NREM sleep, weak noises are screened out by the thalamus via K-complexes. But significant patterns, your own name, a baby's cry, an unfamiliar voice, are more likely to break through the defense and trigger a micro-arousal. This isn't superstition, but a targeted reaction to novelty. Even in sleep, the cortex notes the unusual and prioritizes what's related to survival. Maternal vigilance is a specific case. High-frequency crying wakes you at a lower volume than neutral noise. Vision, on the other hand, is almost powered down. Eyelids are closed and signals are suppressed. Touch only passes the filter if it's sharp or painful. Smell is weakest. Pure scent rarely wakes you, which is why fire alarms sound, not smell. In REM sleep, the filter is finer, but the body is immobilized and emotions consume resources. In N3, the filter is coarser, but the repair is deeper. Moreover, sleep isn't monolithic. Local sleep is possible, when some cortical areas rest more than others. The first night phenomenon in a new place shows asymmetry. One hemisphere stands guard more intensely, like in birds, albeit more weakly. Night movements aren't chaos. Rolling over and changing positions are programmed prophylaxis against static pressure on skin, vessels, and joints. Most microarousals you don't remember because they last under 10 to 15 seconds and don't enter episodic memory. Postural back muscles and the diaphragm remain on duty, supporting breathing and the torso column, while distal groups are relaxed. Even oddities like bruxism, nighttime teeth grinding, in some people turn out to be a micro-defense. A brief jaw clench and a surge of sympathetic activity might accompany episodes of partial upper airway collapse, as if the body is trying to pump up tone, simultaneously redistributing blood in the brain. The night watch is a balance, minimal extraneous, maximal important, to get through the night without losing touch with the world. 10th fact: what happens to sleep changes drastically with age and your clock, your chronotype. Newborns have REM dominance and short cycles of about an hour. As the brain matures, slow waves gain weight, and by school years, the familiar N1, N2, N3 REM ladder with hour-and-a-half cycles forms. During adolescence, the internal clock shifts later. Evening sleepiness moves to 1 to 3 a.m., making teens biologically owls, and early lessons hit N3 depth. In adults, the distribution stabilizes, but after 50 to 60 years, the N3 proportion notably shrinks. Sleep becomes more fragmented. Night awakenings increase. In some men, the slow wave drop is more pronounced. Chronotypes also vary genetically. Variations in clock genes, like PER3 or CRY mutations, shift the body's natural noon. Some are comfortable falling asleep at 9:30 p.m., others at 1:30 a.m. For the former, an early rise yields a clear head. For the latter, reality often lives off their time. When social clocks conflict with biological ones, social jet lag arises. On weekdays, a person is forced to wake earlier than their phase, and on weekends sleeps later, jerking the system back and forth. This mode is observed to link with greater cravings for calories, less stable mood, and raised blood pressure, though causality is complex. Air travel adds another geometry. Flying east requires shortening the day, which is harder than lengthening it westwards. Morning light speeds up the internal clock, evening light slows it, and shift workers live for years on this scissor. Multi-connectivity also matters. Besides the central suprachiasmatic nucleus, clocks exist in the liver, muscles, fat tissue. They adjust to meal timing and activity, and lack of synchrony between circuits breeds a feeling of brokenness, even if sleep hours are formally enough. Therefore, 2 nights of equal duration, one for an early bird in their rhythm and an owl against theirs, will yield 2 different organisms by morning. The question isn't just how long did you sleep, but also when by your own clock.